The long business trip was over, and I was finally returning home. My heart was overflowing with joy. The thought of surprising Emma, my wife, was on my mind. I decided not to tell her about my early return. I wanted to see her sincere reaction when I appeared on the doorstep with flowers and a bottle of wine. It was going to be our special evening after a few weeks apart. When I parked the car in front of the house, something seemed unusual. The door was only slightly ajar, and laughter was coming from inside. It confused me because I wasn't expecting guests. But instead of immediately calling Emma, I decided to enter quietly to see what was going on. There were shoes lying in the hallway that I didn't recognize. I stood there for a moment, trying to calm down. Maybe it's Emma's friends, I thought. But when I heard a man's voice, my heart started to beat faster. I quietly walked into the living room. There was a bag on the couch that was definitely not Emma's and another pair of men's shoes. Laughter and conversation were coming from the bedroom on the second floor. My mind refused to believe the worst, but my instincts told me something was wrong. As I climbed the stairs and approached our bedroom door, the laughter changed to something more. It was the moment when all my doubts turned into a terrifying certainty. I pushed the door open with a sudden movement. What I saw was forever etched in my memory. Emma was not alone. There were two men and her friend, Selena, in the bed. They were all half naked, and their shock at my sudden entrance was instantaneous. For a moment, there was absolute silence. "What the hell is going on here?" I shouted. My voice was filled with anger and disbelief. Everyone was numb, as if they didn't know how to react. Emma was the first to try to say something, but I didn't give her a chance. "Is this your explanation for the girls' night out you told me about yesterday?" I added, not lowering my tone. Her face turned red with shame, but she couldn't come up with anything clever. My anger exploded. I threw the bottle of wine on the floor, where it shattered into hundreds of pieces, scaring everyone in the room. One of the men, looking at me brazenly, dared to say, "Calm down, friend. It's not what you think." These words only fueled my anger. Without thinking, I rushed at him. My punch hit him right in the jaw, forcing him to retreat back to the bed. Another man tried to intervene, but I wasn't going to stop. My rage was driving me, and the only thing I wanted was to punish everyone who had been a part of this horrible farce. The noise and screams quickly attracted the attention of the neighbors. I heard some of them shouting for the police, but that didn't stop me. Every punch, every movement was full of despair and desperation that I had never felt before. When the police arrived, they could barely stop me. They pulled me away from the men, one of whom was holding his broken nose, and the other could barely stand. Emma was crying, but I no longer saw her as the person I loved. She no longer existed for me. The police tried to calm the situation, but their words were useless. All I could do was to pick up my dignity from the wreckage and leave this house, which was now only a place of betrayal for me. The police detained me, but after a few hours I was free. At the police station, they realized that I had acted in a fit of emotion, and after a short interrogation, I was released home. However, the word home now only caused disgust. I had returned not to our home, but to a friend I trusted. Tom, my best friend from college, met me with a bottle of whiskey and a willingness to listen. "Adam, that was hell, but you did the right thing. No one has the right to do that to you," he said as he filled the glasses. I was silent, because all the words running through my head were just unanswered questions. Why? How long had it been going on? Was any part of our marriage real? But I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't going to let it go. The next morning I decided to take action. First of all, I contacted a lawyer to start the divorce process. Emma was to get nothing. Our house, our savings. Everything was the result of my hard work, and I wasn't going to share it with the person who betrayed me. After that, I started looking for information about the two men I found in my house. One of them, as it turned out, was married. This discovery gave me an idea. I found out where this man worked, found his profile on social media, and even his wife's contact. The other, as I had already learned from the police, was a neighbor who often came to see Emma when I was not at home. His arrogant insolence demanded punishment. The first person I took on was a married man. I created an anonymous profile and sent his wife a message with details of what happened that night. I described everything, the address, the time, and even included photos of the shoes he left in my hallway. Her response was not long in coming. She thanked me for the information and said she would decide what to do. I knew this was only the beginning of his problems. The next one was a neighbor. I found his Facebook page and posted a comment under his photo with the caption, "Is this the same neighbor who comes to other people's houses when the owner is away?" His friends and colleagues loved it, and I'm sure the gossip spread quickly. Emma tried to contact me several times, but I didn't respond. She even came to Tom to talk to him, but he wouldn't let her in. Her messages were filled with apologies, promises to change, and requests to give her another chance. But my heart was closed. She no longer existed for me. However, I could not leave it at the level of personal revenge. I decided to make sure that everyone involved in this betrayal would feel the consequences. My goal was simple, to take everything from them as they had taken from me. The following week, I put in an application to sell our house. I knew Emma would be furious, but it was one more step towards a complete breakup. I also made sure mutual friends knew what had happened. It wasn't revenge for revenge's sake, but a way to cleanse my life of the lies. My resolve grew stronger every day. I was no longer the man who turns a blind eye to problems. Now I was the one who took matters into my own hands. Days turned into weeks, and my determination to destroy everyone who took part in the betrayal only grew stronger. There was no room for complaints or doubts. I acted clearly and ruthlessly. My strategy was simple: destroy their reputations, sever their relationships, and make them feel what I felt. Selena was next on my list, and her role in all of this was just as important as the others. She kept in touch with Emma after I was deceived and, as far as I could tell, had no remorse. I found out that she worked for a PR agency where reputation was key. I found old photos from parties we had attended together where she was not behaving in a very decent manner. I chose some of the worst shots, created an anonymous social media account, and sent them to her boss. In the accompanying text, I hinted at her possible involvement in unprofessional behavior. A few days later, I learned that Selena had lost her job. This was only the first stage. Her reputation among her friends and colleagues began to decline, and her confidence disappeared. The second man I found in his home was already suffering from the publicity. His wife had decided to file for divorce, and the story quickly spread among their circle. But I couldn't stop there. I found out that he was running an event management business. Using an anonymous profile, I started leaving negative feedback about his work, accusing him of being negligent and unreliable. I also found several of his clients who had complaints and convinced them to tell their stories publicly. His business started losing clients, and a month later he was forced to close his company. The neighbor was the most brazen of all. His calmness and lack of remorse made me angry. I found out that he was in the real estate rental business. His online ads looked perfect, but I found several flaws in his offers that could easily be used against him. I contacted several tenants who were dissatisfied with his services and helped them create a public campaign on social media. It quickly attracted attention, and his business began to suffer from negative publicity. Eventually, he was forced to sell some of his properties to avoid bankruptcy. I knew that was just the beginning of his downfall. Emma tried to contact me several times, but I ignored her. Her messages changed tone from apologies to threats. She wrote that I was ruining her life, but I saw it as fair. She had ruined my life, and now I was doing the same to her world. I spread the story of her betrayal among our mutual friends, backing it up with evidence. Those who had previously supported her began to shun her. Emma lost a large part of her social circle, and as far as I knew, her career began to suffer as well. She quit her job, and I felt that this was only the beginning of her downfall. My life began to recover. I had severed all ties with the past, but at the same time, I could not completely get rid of the bitterness. My decision to act instead of suffer gave me the strength to move forward. However, I realized that I still had a lot of work to do, not only on revenge, but also on myself. My plan was almost complete, but there was still a feeling that something was missing. I had destroyed the lives of those who had betrayed me, but I still felt uneasy in my heart. It was as if a part of me was longing for more, a final accent that would put an end to the story. One evening I was coming back from the office when I saw Emma on the street. She looked completely different. Her confidence, which I had always considered her strong point, was gone. She was standing outside a cafe, as if waiting for someone. Our eyes crossed, and I felt a wave of anger rising in me. But this time I restrained myself. I didn't want any more scandals. I had already won. She came up to me, her face full of despair. "Adam, we have to talk." Her voice was quiet, almost pleading. "There's nothing left to talk about, Emma. You've made your choice, and I've made mine." She tried to explain why, but every word she said seemed like an excuse. I left her there without even listening to the end. This encounter confirmed that she was a thing of the past for me. The next week I met one of my enemies in the supermarket, the same impudent neighbor. He approached me with an evil smile, as if he was looking for a confrontation. "Do you think you've destroyed me, Adam? Do you think you won?" he began. His tone was so self-assured that I couldn't help but answer. "No, I know I won," I replied, looking him coldly in the eye. "You lost everything you had, and this is just the beginning." This conversation quickly escalated into a physical fight. He attacked me first, but I was ready. My rage, accumulated over all these months, exploded. We ended up on the floor among the shelves of food, attracting the attention of everyone around us. Supermarket security quickly intervened, separating us. His arrogance disappeared as I coldly said, "Next time, think twice before challenging someone who has already ruined your life." I had only one last thing to do: sell the house that had become a symbol of my frustrations. I knew that Emma was still trying to sue for part of the property, but my lawyer ensured that this was impossible. The sale transaction closed quickly, and I received a substantial amount of money, which I used to move to another city. Before I left her one letter, without any accusation, with just one sentence: "You have lost me forever." After moving to a new city, I felt a long-awaited relief. My revenge was complete, and I was ready to start a new life. This chapter was a lesson that changed me forever. The pain of betrayal gradually faded, and so did my anger. Now I was looking forward to new opportunities, and maybe even a new love. When I moved to a new city, I felt free for the first time in a long time. The past events left a deep scar, but now I could breathe freely without feeling the burden of betrayal. My life began to change, not immediately, but gradually. Working at the new company became the distraction I needed. I found new friends and even started seeing a psychologist to deal with the consequences of the past. One day, I received an unexpected letter from Emma. She found out about my whereabouts through mutual friends. There were only a few lines in the letter. "I know I can't fix anything. However, I want to say that I am sorry. I hope you find the happiness I couldn't give you." I read these words several times, but I felt neither anger nor joy, only emptiness. I did not answer. For me, this story was over, and I didn't want it to come back into my life. My new life was becoming more stable. I took part in several charity projects, met interesting people, and began to appreciate simple moments: morning jogging, coffee by the river, evening walks. I realized that now my happiness depended only on me. Over time, I met a woman named Rachel. Her calmness and self-confidence fascinated me. We started talking and I felt that I could trust again. It wasn't love at first sight, but it was a story that developed slowly and naturally. She knew what I had been through and accepted me for who I was with all my fears and mistakes. The past taught me to value myself and my feelings. I realized that betrayal is not only the end, but also the beginning of a new path. Letting go of anger and pain was not easy, but it gave me freedom. Now I saw my life as a chance to create something new and better. One morning, while walking with Rachel, we stopped at a small coffee shop. She took my hand and said, "You are stronger than you think you are, and I know your life will be different now." I smiled. For the first time in a long time, I really believed that. The past was behind me, and everything I could create with my own hands was ahead. And this time I knew that I would never allow myself to be in the shadow of someone else's betrayal.